The McStay family. The McStay family was the picture of a typical happy American family living in Fallbrook, California. Joseph McStay, 40, ran a successful business selling decorative fountains online. His wife, Summer, 43, was a devoted mother to their two young sons, Gianni and Joseph Jr. By all accounts, they were excited about life and looking forward to the future. They had recently moved into a new home and were busy decorating and settling in. On February 4th, 2010, everything changed. The McStays suddenly vanished without a trace. It was as if the earth had swallowed them whole. The eerie part was what they left behind. When investigators entered their home, they found food left out on the kitchen counter, bowls of popcorn scattered around the living room, and toys on the floor, as if the family had just stepped out and would return at any moment. But they didn't. Days turned into weeks, and then into years. Where were the McStays? The search for answers. The search for the McStay family initially led to countless dead ends. Their white Isuzu Trooper was found parked near the Mexican border in San Isidro, California, just a few days after they disappeared. Surveillance footage from the border showed a family of 4 walking into Mexico, and some investigators thought it could be the McStays. Did they decide to start a new life in Mexico? Had they crossed the border to escape something or someone? This theory dominated much of the early investigation. Some believed the family may have been running from financial troubles or some kind of threat, but those who knew the McStays didn't believe it. Joseph's business was doing well, and Summer had no known connections to anything illegal or dangerous. They were a loving family, and it didn't make sense that they would just leave everything behind. The investigation stretched on, with authorities combing through emails, financial records, and phone calls. Yet there was no indication that the McStays had planned to flee, and if they had crossed the border voluntarily, why had they left so much behind? Their home seemed abandoned in haste, and no one who knew them had heard from them in years.
Though it's still unclear who did those.
The mystery surrounding the McStay family's disappearance took a horrifying turn in November 2013, 3 years after they vanished. A motorcyclist riding through a remote desert area in Victorville, California, stumbled upon human remains buried in shallow graves. What was once a hopeful search for a missing family soon turned into a gruesome murder investigation. The remains were identified as those of the McStay family. Joseph, Summer, Gianni, and Joseph Jr. had all been brutally murdered and buried in the desert. Their skeletal remains revealed that they had likely been bludgeoned to death with a sledgehammer, which was found near the graves. The discovery of their bodies left more questions than answers. How did the McStay family end up in the desert, 100 miles from their home? Who could have committed such a heinous crime? And why did it take so long to find them? The investigation. After the bodies were discovered, the case shifted focus. Investigators now had to figure out who could have done this to the McStay family. The autopsy showed that all 4 had suffered from blunt force trauma, likely caused by the sledgehammer found near the graves. The question remained, who would want to harm this family? As detectives delved deeper, they began to look at people who had been close to the McStays. One name that came up repeatedly was Charles Chase Merritt, Joseph McStay's business associate. Merritt had been involved in Joseph's fountain business, and financial records showed that he had written checks to himself from Joseph's accounts in the days leading up to the disappearance. Was this a financial dispute that escalated into violence? Chase Merritt became the
Murder charges against Charles Ray Merritt.
Chase Merritt became the prime suspect in the investigation, and the evidence against him began to pile up. His DNA was found inside the McStay family's car, which had been abandoned near the Mexican border. Phone records placed him in the same desert area where the bodies were later discovered. It was enough to arrest him. In 2014, Merritt was charged with the murders of the McStay family. Prosecutors alleged that Merritt had killed the family over money. He owed Joseph thousands of dollars, and when Joseph found out that Merritt had been stealing from him, an argument ensued that led to the murders. The trial was long and emotional. Prosecutors laid out a detailed case against Merritt, while his defense team argued that there was no direct evidence linking him to the crime scene. They suggested that other people could have been involved, pointing to the fact that no fingerprints or physical evidence were found in the McStay home. In June 2019, after years of uncertainty and heartache for the McStay family's relatives, the jury delivered its verdict. Charles Chase Merritt was found guilty of 4 counts of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to death for the killings. Justice had been served, but the questions lingered. Many people still wonder why Merritt would commit such a brutal crime. Was it truly over money, or was there something deeper? The sheer violence of the murders suggests that this was more than just a financial dispute. The exact motives remain murky, but what's clear is that the McStay family's tragic end shocked and saddened the nation. The impact on the community. The McStay family's disappearance and murder shook the community of Fallbrook and beyond. This wasn't just another crime. It was the murder of a family who seemed to have it all. People were scared, confused, and heartbroken, wondering how something like this could happen so close to home. For the McStay family's friends and relatives, the discovery of their bodies brought both relief and devastation. After years of wondering and hoping that the family would be found alive, the grim reality was almost too much to bear. The thought of those 2 young boys who had their whole lives ahead of them being murdered alongside their parents is a nightmare no one should have to face. The case also left many questioning the initial investigation. Why had it taken so long to locate the bodies? And could the police have done more to solve the case sooner? Why the McStay case matters. The tragic story of the McStay family is a reminder that the answers we seek in true crime cases are not always simple. It shows that even with modern technology and forensic science, some cases take years to unravel. The McStay case also highlights the importance of looking beyond the surface when investigating missing persons. Initial theories can sometimes lead investigations astray, as was the case when authorities focused on the possibility that the family had fled to Mexico. But above all, the McStay family's story is about loss, an unimaginable loss for their loved ones and the community. It's a reminder that even in the most ordinary of lives, tragedy can strike without warning. The McStay family was simply going about their lives, raising their children and running their business when everything was taken from them in an instant. The tragic murders of the McStay family left a lasting mark on all who followed the case. It's a story of a family who vanished without explanation, only to be found years later in the desert, victims of a senseless and brutal crime. While justice has been served in the form of a conviction, the pain and loss will never truly fade for those who knew and loved the McStays.